Hi and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making some wood clamps. You can never ever have too many clamps. I've heard so many people say that, and it's so true. And the problem is that the likes of clamps that I've been buying up till now from B&Q, I think that type of clamp is, it was close to £20 I think from B&Q, and well, if you've never got enough, then that's going to get pretty expensive quite quick. So typically what I was doing, if I was doing a 5-board glue up like this, I mean obviously I haven't jointed these or planed them or anything, it's just an example. So I'd have my 5 boards like that, and I'd glue them up obviously. So glue in all the joints, make sure that I'm happy that they're flat, and then what I was finding was I'd be tightening like this, tightening gently, I'd get a nice squeeze out, nice glue squeeze out, and then I'd find either one of these boards was proud and I couldn't easily adjust it, or I'd put too much pressure and I'd actually produce a cup. So what I was doing then was I was putting a board, well there you go, there's the first problem, is trying to lift it and the whole thing collapses. So I either got not enough pressure or too much pressure. Yeah, there you go. So I'm putting too much pressure on and I'm creating. So what I was trying to do was, I was then trying to get this underneath plastic obviously so that the glue doesn't stick to the wood. Then I was putting this over the top to try and basically stop the cupping, keep all these completely flat, and then I was putting G-clamps on the side to apply pressure. Okay, so it worked, and I've done quite a few glue ups like that. But then I watched some YouTube videos on making your own wood clamps, just because I'm too tight to be paying nearly 20 quid for a clamp, especially when I want lots and lots of clamps, and I don't really want to be paying 20 quid every single time I want a new clamp. So this is a design that I've seen several YouTube videos that are similar to this, and I've taken bits from both videos, or both, but bits from 5 or 6 videos, and basically made sort of my own hybrid type design. So I've got my 5 boards in there. I've got a protective piece of wood in the back, just because I don't want, when I'm clamping pressure across here, I don't want these threads here to be making a mark on the edge of my actual board. So these are sort of sacrificial pieces of wood that can be, doesn't matter if they get a bit of damage on them. Just use a straight one, it's better. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, using wedges, I'm going to apply pressure here that will produce the squeeze out. But to prevent these from bowing up, there's planks of wood that go on top here that get screwed down. So effectively they're not only applying pressure across, but they're also applying pressure down. So as well as being considerably cheaper than wood clamps from B&Q, I can make as many as I like. They're dirt cheap to make, and I actually think they're better. I went to B&Q yesterday and bought one single 2.4 meter CLS timber plank. I've got the wider stuff because I actually found these narrow ones were bowing a little bit if I put too much pressure on them, too much clamp pressure, and I made one of these, and it actually was much stiffer. So I'm going to go with this wider wood from now onwards. So and obviously I've got sticky tape here so that the wood glue doesn't stick down to the clamps themselves. So then just make some wedges out of scrap wood, just offcuts, and right, so when I force those in against each other, that will produce pressure across the board. So right, so that's now, those are pretty firmly clamped. I'm going to go tighter than that once I've got the other planks on the top. So that's now, that will have given me my glue squeeze out. I then put these on the top. Again with tape underneath to prevent the glue, once it is squeezed out, to prevent it from sticking to the top board. If I hadn't tightened the wedges so much, in fact I might just loosen this wedge, then that wouldn't have been, yeah, okay, so I shouldn't have tightened the wedges quite so early. Put these on first. There you go, it goes in much better now. So now that those are on, now I can tighten the wedges. So that's really, I mean, those even though I haven't planed the edges, I haven't jointed the edges of those, but those, I can't see any gaps anymore. It's completely squeezed. If there had been glue in there, that would have squeezed out all the glue. And then put these on. Fortunately, I crossed the thread on this one, so I didn't cross the thread, but I bashed the end of it with a metal hammer rather than a wooden hammer, and I've just slightly bent over the this end bit of thread. So, lesson learned. Okay. And what have I done with that? It seems to have slid out again. Right, so okay, so now this is achieving the same as the cowls or whatever they're called, and what I was clamping with plastic sheeting on either side of the wood. This is achieving the same. It's keeping these boards flat down this way, and the wedges are keeping everything that way. And if I apply too much pressure, in theory this can't actually cup upwards because these are going to keep it flat. And I just give it a quick couple of turns. And this is where I found if I put too much pressure on this side, then what I found was, because the wood is relatively thin, I was actually effectively bowing the wood by doing this. So that's why on my second designs I've actually gone to these, because I found that even if I tightened those, they didn't bow. Right, so I've now got a completely solid block. I can also manhandle this. I can lean it up against things. I can move it. I can move it off my worktop. I was finding as well that the glue up was so delicate that once it was glued up, I had to leave it on my workbench for a day because I daren't move it. And obviously that then uses up your workbench space. So this is ideal. This can just be moved anywhere. You can also get to the underneath and take the squeeze out off. You know, the squeezed out glue, I can take it off here. You see I've recessed the bolt heads into here. I only did that this morning as a second phase of the design. I didn't have that to begin with, and so what that meant was, as I had those pieces of wood on the workbench, they were wobbling side to side as I was trying to lay everything out. Now it's just absolutely rock solid, flat on the workbench. So really, really happy with how that's worked out. And obviously I can make as many of these as I want. I think the 2.4 metre length of wood was £5.60 or £6.50, and from that I can make, from that 2.4 metre length, I can make 2 clamps, which is what I'm going to do this afternoon. And I think these bolts from Amazon, but it was a set of 6 bolts and nuts from Amazon that they were only about £5 or £6. So say those were 6 and the wood was 6, £12. For £12 I can make myself 2 sets of clamps, maybe even 3 sets of clamps. Certainly got enough bolts for 3 sets of clamps. It's just much more flexible. It's cheaper, more flexible, better design, because it achieves 2 in 1, and gives me this ability to just move things around, put that over there, move it out of the way, and I've got my workbench back. So that's what I'm going to do this afternoon. I'm going to make one of those. So as I say, I got the... Okay, so I've measured and found the centre of the boards. Two inches in. And then first one at 10 inches. And then 2 inches, every 2 inches after that. Okay, so that's where my screw hole's going to go in. I've got a bench drill, which I'm very glad about. So for accuracy of drilling, another mistake I made with my first set was I marked these holes, I drilled each of these individually, this board and then this board individually, and of course when I put the two on top of each other, they were millimeters out. So you'd put a bolt through and it just wouldn't quite go through. If there's a half mil difference between those two distances, which I don't know how good you are at measuring, but I could quite easily be out by half a mil on that, then they just didn't fit. So what I've done in my sort of subsequent drilling sessions, you see that's quite tight anyway. So what I've done in my subsequent drilling sessions is I'll actually lay the boards on top of each other, clamp them gently, and get the bench drill to actually go through both of them at the same time, so that I'm assured that the lines exactly, that the holes exactly match up. Yeah, as I say, I learnt that the hard way. Had to do a load of re-drilling, which was a pain. So, okay. Right, so I'll take this over to the bench drill and drill the holes. They're 12mm holes, 12 M12 bolts. Sorry, M6 bolts. M6 or M12. It's 12mm anyway. Yeah, they're called carriage bolts. I'm not sure. I think the carriage bit is the fact that they've got a square underneath the head, and that stops when you're turning, because that square has gone up into. Okay, so my drill bit isn't deep enough to go all the way through the two planks, but what I should find is that I've made enough of an impression. So obviously I've gone all the way through those holes, which is fine, and then I've made enough of an impression. I've got about a centimetre in there, which is enough for me to now accurately know exactly where I need to measure these second sets of holes. Hopefully, that's the idea anyway. Yeah. Yeah, great. Okay, so then I need to drill out and decide which is going to be the bottom of the bottom. I basically want the two faces that are going to be touching my workpiece to be as perfect as possible. So if there are any imperfections, like nasty knots or anything like that, I'd put the nasty knot. There's a nasty knot there that looks like it's going to crack and possibly come out. So I'd put that either on the top of the top or the bottom of the bottom, so it's not actually touching the workpiece. So if we make that might make that the bottom. So I now need to, for each of these, drill out the recess so that when I push these in, this being the bottom now, when I push it in, that bolt wants to sit completely recessed. Yeah, so that's as well as that knot, and that knot, there's also a bit of wood chipped out there, so it's right to have that as the bottom, because I don't want that piece touching my workpiece. And based on the previous one that I did, I want to drill down 7mm to get the perfect flush recess. Okay, so we've already established from were doing the drilling that this is going to be the bottom of the bottom. I personally always mark them. These are so obvious that that's the bottom because you've got the recess. That's a nice flat face, so we just need to decide. That's the flattest, so I'm going to put that against my work piece. So this is the top of the top. Okay, so that's fine. So I'm just going to give this a quick sand. Just get rid of some of the small tear throughs. Not very big, but just to prevent myself from getting splinters. That's lovely. Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is just give them a quick stain with wax. I originally did it with wax. Beeswax because one of the videos I watched, the guy waxed them, and as a result of waxing them, he was putting them directly onto his workpiece, and he said effectively the wood glue wouldn't stick to the wax. I haven't been quite that brave. I still put the sticky parcel tape on as well. But I think in theory the wood glue wouldn't stick to the beeswax, I think. I haven't been brave enough. I don't want to end up with my clamps actually glued to my workpiece. Bolt bits need to have their own recess. Now, originally on one of my earlier designs, I actually with a chisel went round and chiseled a square for those to go into, square recess. What I did with my most recent set was actually just used the pressure of the bolts to pull that through and make its own little home, and that actually was far less hassle and seemed to work pretty well. So I'll do that now, which will take a bit of a while, so I will do that and fast forward. Okay, so as I said, I now need to pull these bolts through so that they make their own square recess for the square part of the carriage bolt. The first time I did it, I put this on top here, attached my nut and screw all the way down, and it took forever until I worked out. I thought what I need is shorter bolts just to do this particular job. I thought, well, of course, one way to make the bolts shorter, thinking outside the box, is just to put some additional wood on the top, like that. So now I only have to screw down that small amount before the bolt starts pulling itself through. So you can see that basically at the moment the whole thing wobbles on the worktop because I'm sitting on the crown of that nut. But when I pull this through until it goes tight, at the same time as it goes tight, this stops wobbling as well, because I've now pulled that all the way flush. So just needs to come through about a mil. Yeah, very solid. Then it's now completely flush. So I now need to do that another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So I'll do it fast forward. Wooden mallet. Okay, so sticky tape. Actually, with this one, I've been using plastic tape on the others, but with this one I'm going to try masking tape. I think that should work just as well. So, top of the top, need it on there. Bottom of the bottom, so need it on here. Basically all I'm trying to do is make sure that when the glue sets, when I've got this squeezed against my workpiece, that the glue from the squeeze out doesn't glue onto this and glue my clamp to the workpiece. As I say, somebody on YouTube has said that by using wax that prevented that. So this may be unnecessary. This may be an unnecessary step, and I may just be able to go straight onto the beeswax. But it's not a risk I'm willing to take, because it only has to go wrong once, and then you've got a wood clamp stuck to your workpiece, and I don't quite know what you do at that stage. I haven't seen a YouTube video on how to deal with that, and if it's not on YouTube, it doesn't exist. Right, so should be able to just put it in and a bit of a tap. Okay, needs a bit more of a tap. There we go, that's flat. So it's there. See, that one went straight in. I've used this a few times. That went straight in without having to be bashed in, so it does get better. So I've now got my nice flat pieces. So obviously these aren't the same, these haven't been planed down to the same right. So wedges in. they're all nicely compressed that way now. I could drive another wedge in if it wasn't enough, but I think that's enough. And then I just screw those down, and questions, let me know in the comments section, and you know, I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit the bell button or whatever it is, and you know, obviously the more subscribers I get, the more worthwhile it feels like it's becoming to do videos. So thank you for your support, stay safe, thank you.